Oh, hello again, everyone. Thanks for visiting once again, and nice to see you all. Before I start on the next bit of the Challenger 2, I just wanted to quickly remind David that he helped me out enormously in his comment with the last video on Challenger 2 when he talked about a swear box. So I have fashioned one, and maybe it will keep me from committing foul oaths on the air and such like. So it sits there off camera. I'm going to put it off camera out of the way, so I've got more room to do what I need to do. But thank you, David, for your comment. Much regards to you, and I'm very pleased to have that on the way. But anyway, let's crack on. We've got up to, I said I'll be doing some photo etch this time round. I'm going to do that in a minute, but just to recap on where we are, I got some additional components to drop in from step 13, which is, I think, a little light or something such as that, which I shall do a bit later on for reasons that will become apparent. This stage 15, 16 and 17 is pretty much there. I've done one of the pieces of bar armour that goes onto the side skirt here, and as you can see, I haven't actually put the side skirts on as of yet, and I'm not going to until the wheels are done. So my plan really here is to get all of the wheels painted, get all of this primed, and pretty much to do it all at once, really. So in terms of the skirt here, you can see that the bar armour sits on the side there. It's all pretty straightforward stuff, really. Defies any explanation, really, but certainly worthwhile just looking at how this attaches, shall we say. So this sits in, yeah, let's see if we get it the right way around, eh? That would probably be quite helpful. It sits in that way round. Now there are some pips and some little Johnsons in here. See if I can zero in on them and show them to you. There you go, you can see them just there. If I get a poker onto that, you can probably see that quite easily. I use this here, so you can see there's a set of little pips there that locate onto the brackets for the skirts there, as you can see. So these things simply sit on. Let's just zero out just a little bit for you there, and these things simply sit onto the skirts after that fashion, and that locates them, and you can then glue the top side of this in from the back. And what I did with this other one was to use quick setting, because it's probably somewhat easier. And then it's essentially there for good and all. So we'll get that sorted to start with. Just do that as we go. So I'm going to have a quick look from underneath the, switch that light back on again. I'm going to look from underneath the magnifier here, so that I can see it, because it's not quite so easy, for me anyway, certainly. I'll tack one side first, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll go with that right hand side first, and then get that located. And I have found myself having to be really quite careful because of this bar armour. Actually, the glue will seep through onto your finger, which is not really all that helpful, to be truthful with you. So do take a look out for that. And then what we can then do is hold that up there like that. Get that next section glued in and hold it for a minute. So that just capillaries around. Oh, let's try that again. There we go. And then do that third one there. Just drop a drop of glue in there and hold, and there we go. And then we can go from up and underneath into these three sections here. Again, it's all pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't really need too much in the way of explanation, does it? Let's face it. And there's quite a few places where bits and pieces fit and seem to fit where they touch to some extent, but with a little bit of figuring out, it's pretty straightforward really. So yeah, that looks all right there. And there we have it. So there's those two skirts pretty much complete there. I've put the boxing on the front there. I think we talked about that the last time. So the next step for me right now, I'll just move those away because we'll need them later, is this piece of photo etch here, and the square box is on standby for that, so we'll get the special bending Johnson out. So there are two sections for this, as we can see. So I'll give you a quick consultation of the instruction book here. So we have my poker I need. I didn't want to use a paintbrush the whole time. So we have Y12 and then Y1. Y12 is just plainly poked into this cutout section here, and Y1 is then bent up at 90 degrees here and here. I'm saying this out loud so I get it right in my own mind. And then I suspect once those two sections are bent up, then A11, A46 and A45 can be inserted, and then the rest of it can be completed from there. So that's the way I'm going to try and do it, and we'll see how we get along, shall we? So let's put all that away and get our piece of photo etch out. I've cleaned all this off, by the way, already, so there's not too much to do here in terms of that. So I'm going to try a little trick, because obviously these have little indentations in them, and if I can make the indentation up to the there you go, I can feel that. I can make the indentation up to the end of the photo etch bender. It might perhaps make it more easy, because this isn't like Ron Calverley's photo etch bender, which is just an amazing piece of kit, beautifully engineered. This is rather more moves around, shall we say. It's a bit more Heath Robinson, that's probably the right way of describing it. Let's get my little razor blade out. So let's check again. That's right. So all I need to do now is just carefully ease my razor blade underneath that and bend that up to 90 degrees. I think that's just about there. And I can release that and take a quick look. Yeah, that looks okay. So that's the first bit done. So the next bit is to drop it, of course. That wouldn't do if you couldn't drop it first. So I'm just a little bit off the end, shall we say, of the bending tool here. I had a bit of a job actually finding one of these on the internet, because I thought I would do a little search on Google. So I typed in small bender, and you wouldn't believe the results I got back. Still, there you are. There you go, that's that bit done. So again, with the razor blade, because it's got one of these little safety handles on the end of it, and we have to be careful with that. So otherwise you end up getting the safety handle caught on the cursed end of the bit of stuff you're trying to bend, and you end up bending it in an unscheduled manner, which is not helpful. There you are, got that back, rescued. So that's the first bit done without the aid of a safety net. So what I'm going to do now is we'll just take these two sections, A46 and A45, and there's a key and tongue groove, I suppose you could call it, a key, I guess, in amongst that, which needs to be, which as you can see I'm doing a really good job of putting together. Let's have that together if we can. Oh, there it goes, finally. There we are. A bit of extra thin on that. Just lay that in there gently. Have a quick look underneath the magnifier for a minute just to make sure I've got this right. Oh, no, I don't think I have actually. It doesn't look like I have. I think this looks like it's... Oh, this fits only one way. Yes, so that only fits one way. So the tongues and the grooves on either side of these. Let's just show you that. I've just found that out. Didn't realise that. So let's just zip in on this. You might be able to see this. So the tongues and the grooves inside this little section here are 180 degrees apart from one another, and one is wide, one is narrow, and so if you get them the wrong way round, it don't work very well. So with that being done, I'm hopeful that this inserts through there after that fashion, and I suppose we are then in a position whereby we can start to assemble this. Okay, I get this. So this little bar goes at one side, the drum goes at one side and locates into those little holes there. And this is a bit fiddly and it's testing my eyes to the limit. So I'm going to have a quick look underneath the magnifier again. Let's just zero out because it helps you to see these things, and I have to be mindful of that because otherwise it's not particularly entertaining. So with any luck, now the question is, how can I think I might be well advised to actually glue them in, don't you know? Yeah, that might not be a bad idea, eh? So if I glue those in with a bit of just a dab of the old super glue. So I'm going to do this one-handed for a minute. My glue dibber seems to have disappeared. Yes, things seem to have disappeared today. Don't quite know what's going on there. So let's do good housekeeping, put the glue away, zero back out again for a second. So we're going one-handed for a minute. So I've still got this in my hand, of course. Trying not to hold on to it too tightly. Give me 1 second, will I just relocate that? It's not quite located properly. So what I'll do is I'll put a little drop of super glue onto the end of those holes and just let it capillary through, and with any luck what we'll get is a situation where that will be held shut all on its own without any need for tweezers. So with any luck you can be able to see that. So as you can see, that's glued. There we go. and it survived the drop test as well. How about that? So that's the first thing. The next thing is this little tweaker here, which will sit in there. Now I need some very small tweezers for that, so let's fetch them out. And magnifiers again. Don't know whether you can see that. Oh yes, you can actually see that okay. So I'm trying to locate this section here into the little divot that's been prepared for it, and then just dab a little bit of super glue in there, and let that wick down, and with any luck, let's put that where you can see it. Right, so that's dabbed in. And I see it's just started to rain outside, not helpful. And there we go. So, oh dear, let's zero out again, and then put that like that. So the last thing we need to do is to just fold over. There we go. To put this down again, just need to fold over flat there. So what I can do with that is get my, is that going to be too wide or not? That's going to be the right width. That's okay. So what I can do there is get my flat tweezers and, oh hello, that's moved quite a lot. I don't want that. I use these little tiddly ones. And then maybe I can bend that down that way like that. And I'm going to glue the end of that with my little bit of super glue here, and once that's bonded, hopefully that little middle vertical piece is located into its little cutout, and I can bond that section as well. So there we go. I'm going to put that down, let it dry for a second. Get my bit of rag here just to clean off my knife. That section goes in here, just there, as you can see, so that will fit. I'm just going to zero back out a little bit there. It goes that way up like that and sits into there, just like that, by the look of things. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's where it should go. So I think what we can do there then is I can use a bit more super glue and then let's bond that straight on, I think. Oh, that's not right in straight in the right place. Act quickly, Zinners, old boy. No, that's not located properly. It has to be located centrally on these bars. So it will it will look good when it's installed, and I think that's about it. Yeah, that's just standing away just a little bit. So what we can do is oh, that was in the wrong place. I'll just glue that in there. Hold it for a few seconds, and there we have it. That's that bit done. So of course now we have double difficulty because there's something else there that's very, very weak that could break at the slightest touch. As far as that's actually concerned, that bit there, I think I'm probably going to glue it in and glue it in permanently before long. But there we are with step 19, the key bit of step 19 done. It's also section A22, which is that little thing that perhaps we think is a camera that goes into the back there, and that sits in there, on there. So we'll just zap that in quickly. Don't normally do it that way, but that sits on there, it says here. That's not gone on exactly where we want it to. Just let that capillary through there, and that will help bond that up, and that will be largely permanent then. So that's that bit done. So I'm not going to put this bar armour on because I'm going to paint underneath that, and I don't want to lose any paint, and it will have anything that's buff coloured when it shouldn't be. Takes us to step 20. So these D1, D2 and D3, as you can see, I've highlighted them. I want to put them in later, so everything that I want to put in later I've highlighted here. Let's put the glue away for a minute. We will need that in a second, but not just right yet. Now we're into a bit more photo etch here in step 20, and it's these 6 panels here, and I've given some thought to how to do this, and what I'm going to do with that is tack it in, or tack the sections in a bit at a time. There's that little bit of paper for that. I'll put that away over there for a minute. I'll put it away later. I know it's not good housekeeping and I'm disobeying my own rules, but I can't find a bit of paper for a moment. So I'm going to tack these little sections in on one corner and then tack the rest in afterwards, so that we get them in the right place. I'm probably going to have to do this over the magnifier as well, so it's going to be a little awkward, I'm afraid. Sorry about that, but it's best to get these things right, and if I can't see them, then that makes it quite difficult. And then after that there's some components that I'm sweeping casually away there to put in. Right, I can see that now. See, that's got dusty, so I just need to give that a quick brush off. Because once I've got these in, it's going to be difficult to get the dust out of them. So yes, as you can see, I've actually primed these. Used a fairly heavily thinned Mr. Surfacer 1500 in black, and that has allowed me to not have any buff plastic showing. So I'm going to use my little teeny weeny tweezers for this, and just make sure I get this into the right place. Now, something I've discovered with Mr. Surfacer, when you spray these things, the metal parts lose the Mr. Surfacer very, very quickly. It comes off enormously rapidly, so that's where this one's going to go. So I'm going to tack a little, put a little blob of glue into the corner here, just so that I can hold this in place, and then I can position it rather than having to put, I can't pick the dratted thing up now. There we go. And then what I'll do after that is just capillary round some glue onto this so that it, no, well, that hasn't worked, has it? Why has that not worked? Just hold that there for a minute. Try that one more time, shall we? Right, there's a visible amount of super glue on that now, and yes, it gets tacky very quickly, this. And still not staying on. There, I think we're about there. Right, okay, so that's that one. Do the next one. Goes in there. I wonder if these are sided. I don't think they are. Or maybe they are. I'm going to go that side. So do the same thing again. You can see all that glue capillarying across the grids there. Push that down. Hope you can see that okay. And there we go. That's that bit done. Now I just need to work out for a minute properly where these other sections go. Either side, yeah, so there we go. So the two larger grids go 1, 2, and the other 4 go 1, 2, 3, 4 by the look of it, and these are left high and dry. Just a quick note on these other sections here. There are lots of little tiny pieces, these little hinges here, and these little U-shaped handles here. I've put them in already because, look, I mean, I don't think you want to hear me you know, with putting these in. It was very difficult to do because they're very tiny, and they flew all over the place. I nearly lost 2 of them to the carpet monster, but not quite. So I will do them another time. But what I'll do now is actually we'll put these plastic parts in because they're scheduled. So those sections there drop into there. I'll glue them in. Hold that down a second, and we come to the next page of the instructions, and I'll put the other 2 photo etch panels in, and we'll be going along well at that stage. with any luck. So just glue them in. Hold them down for a second or two. And there's 4, I presume, filler caps or something like that. I know that the old Jaguars had 2 filler caps, but the Challenger 2 went 2 better than that, didn't it, by the look of it? So these are handed and directional, and the model makes it easy. So Ryefield have made it really straightforward. There's a cutout and a matching cutout in the model. So let's zero in, and might as well show you that whilst we're here. As you can see there's a little cutout, and then in the model there's a corresponding cutout just there. So it's dead simple, really. You know, it's pretty straightforward to do, even for someone of my mean intelligence. And I'll just glue that in there. Hold that down a second. So it really is impossible to get it wrong, unless you contrive, like I have done, to drop things in there. And just get my other tweezers and just bear down on that for a minute, just to give a bit of pressure for the glue to cure off. And dwell a pause of 2 marching paces. All of those of you who were ex-armed services will understand what that means. Get those in. Again, hold them down just for a second, just to get the glue adhered in properly. And that one in there. Oh, that's much too much. That really is incredibly too much. That was very ham-fisted. I'll leave that there. That'll just have to evaporate all on its own. I'm not going to interfere with that too much into the future. So yes, in terms of A8, that other section there, which is this, I was going to say coat hanger, it's not a coat hanger. The big crowbar when you want to lever up your tank. So I'll get that one in. Oh, that's come out. It's me being too quick there. Oh, that's there we go. Give me a second. That's better. Once the one side is glued in, the other side should be easy. So let's a quick note here in terms of where we are. A8, that's done. F22, that's done. Y33 and 34, they're done. F46, that's done. F22, that's done. A60 we need on left and right. So let's get them put in. Those little tweakers there. So that's the right hand side one. I'm going to assume that goes in there. I can't properly see the hole. So okay, so yeah, that's quite interesting. So there's a short short lump there and a long one there, so these two holes fit, all these two pegs fit into the two prepared holes which are there and there. So much simpler than it looks, or much simpler than, oh, where's that gone? That's disappeared amongst the, give me a second whilst I just locate that. It's disappeared amongst the sprues I kept here in case there it is, found it now. So I'm going to hold on to that and locate it like that. Just hold that for a second, and once that's, see, it doesn't glue very quickly. I need to use the extra thin quick setting, don't I? So that's all four of those pegs located, and we'll just bear down just gently on that for a second to get those sections in. Off camera I'll bring a brush of extra thin quick setting across those bars, because there are some mould seams on them, but I can't file them out for fear of breaking them, so I'm not going to do it, not even going to try, and I shall use extra thin to make them disappear. So I use that peg this time to locate and hold. And then those are the two sections there and there, and we'll just bear down on that diagonally a minute. Don't have to push particularly hard, just enough to apply a little bit of pressure. There we go. So pencil up that I've just dropped. So that's A60 and 59, that's done. I think we're all about covered there now. Yes, I think we're about there. We can sail on serenely to the next page. So there are some boxes to put in here, which I've already made up. They're pretty straightforward, and then some odd other bits and pieces to put into the middle, including the barrel mounting, not barrel mounting, the barrel rest. I'm not going to put that in just yet because there's some ejector pin marks on it, and if you want it movable, those ejector pin markings will quickly become visible, so that's not desirable, I would suggest. So these whatnots go in one side and the other. Seems to be some yeah, a sprue nib on that, which I've missed somehow. It's a bit careless of me. Just take them off. Still there. There we go. That's still there as well. I'm going to have to check the other one now. This is a bit boring for you guys. Do feel free to fast forward through it. I promise I won't take more than 3/4 of an hour to remove these sprue nibs. That's that one done. It's 3 o'clock on Sunday and the bloody government are interfering with members of the public. I switched mine off, by the way, which you can do. So there we are. That was my wife's phone going off in the background. How dare the government do such things? How dare they? Anyway, that'll probably get me a strike on YouTube for that sort of thing, expressing annoyance at our government, who are perfect, apparently, it says here. Right, moving swiftly on. There's a cutout there and I don't know what it's for. Alright, okay, so looking carefully at these, let's just flip that round and drop that onto its section. That doesn't go there. It does, I suspect, go there. Oh, that fits fairly well. Are they okay? So these are sided. Both are different. So, and there's a cutout there, but I don't know what that's for just yet. Still, I shall glue these in anyway. I wonder if that's something to do with the... Forgive me whilst I just experiment for a minute, because I'm not clear on what that's there for. That's quite odd. So there's a little cutout shape in there, as you can see. I'm not sure what that's there for, so I'm going to leave them out for a minute. So there's a couple of things I'm going to leave off for a second. The last couple of things to put in here are these little sections here, which essentially match these sections here. And this is handed, so this goes around a certain way as well. Let me make sure I get this in the right way, because I had to do some opening out to make this fit. Oh, you can't see that. Let me move this so that you can see what I'm doing, at least for a little bit. There we go. So just let that bond in for a minute. And it's under some pressure, so I'm going to have to hold that for a second or two. But after this, I don't quite know where we are timing wise at the moment. I suspect we're probably at about half an hour or so, I would think. So I'm probably going to call a halt to things at that point, but I'll give you an idea about where we're going afterwards, because this is really a bit like a game of two halves to some extent. Now these other little sections that go on here, these are handed, so I'll just show you that here. You can see that there's a little nib there that goes all the way down there. That's got to go on the outside, so that section will go into that section like that, and the height, I'll put this in and show you then, and then it's probably easier to do it that way. There'll be a bit of filling to do, so let's show you that in there. Zero in on that. So as you can see, the height of this has to match from there to there, but there is a bit of a seam there, and I don't know whether that's supposed to be there or not. It may not be supposed to be there, so if it isn't, then what I'll do is I'll fill it, but if it is, then no need. But that's more or less exactly the right height. And it takes a little preparation to get to that, yeah, but you should be very easily able to do that. So I'll do the same thing with this one. and there we go. Again, that's exactly as it should be, and we can leave them. So the remaining things to do are these, we'll call them saddlebags, shall we? Let's zero out. So they're these saddlebags, the barrel rest, which I'm going to work on. These sections here, which go that side, they sit in like that and then rest over to the top of the skirt on the ERA, and they do that on both sides, but they go over the top of a little lamp thing that needs to be put in still. So there's a bit of extra work to do off camera on that. Those 4 little panels of PE, and then after that we go from the hull, which is pretty much then complete, into the turret. I'm going to call that part 2, because really this is 2 models, isn't it? So we've done 1 model with air, which is really good, I'm pleased with that, and then we're into manufacturing the turret and this rather splendid automatic machine gun. I call it a turret, I suppose, which requires some manufacture, and then assembling the rest of the turret itself. So there we are. An entertaining afternoon of faffing around. Oh yeah, forgot the rest of that. I've got to put the driver's lid on, and also the periscope. I'm not going to put the periscope in until essentially after the completion of the painting, because there's a T part, which is a clear part, to go in, and I want to make that look as realistic as I can. So I shall be working on that. But there we are. So that's the next step of the Challenger 2 completed. Thank you very much indeed for coming along for a time to look at this with me. I do appreciate that. We haven't had to use David's swear box at all today, which is an absolute blessing and a joy. So look, thanks very much indeed for coming along. Enjoy yourselves until next time. Have good modelling times, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care now. Bye bye.